I'm going to do a quick review of thesis and concluding paragraphs, actually. So we're going to go back into week 4. We learned this in our last unit, but I think people are thinking that that was just for the last unit. Thesis and concluding paragraphs stay pretty much the same every time you look at them. They shift around a little bit based on your topic, but not much, actually. So we're going to take another look at this. This is the sample paragraphs for reflective essay. And I'm going to take a look at this with you. We're going to look at thesis and concluding paragraphs. There are also tutorials that go with this. So I found myself writing kind of over and over again, review the thesis and concluding paragraph jobs in the week 4 materials, and I found myself writing that so many times that it seemed like it would be really worth our time to go over those and how they work in this essay. Okay, so raise the subject naturally. Erin, tell me what our subject is, just our overall subject.
Confederate monuments.
Right. So when you raise that subject naturally, you might just point out to your reader that it's been an issue, that some people are talking about removing the monuments and other people want to see them preserved, and just put it out there for your reader that this is a topic of discussion, right? That it's a topic for activism. That there's been some stuff going on with this. Make sure that you remember that your audience may not have any awareness. Like, it might be really good to think of your audience as someone who lives in Canada and has no idea about American politics, right? So just think about an uninformed but intelligent reader. Okay, but they don't know what you're talking about. You definitely don't want to burst out with, I think that all the monuments should be removed. Even if you do, that's just an awkward way to start a conversation. You want to say, hey, have you thought about the monuments at all? Have you heard the discussion around this? And that's a more natural way to start a face-to-face conversation. And we want to try to start our conversations on paper the way we start our conversations in person, just by raising the subject in a natural way. Sometimes that's by asking a question. Sometimes it's just by saying, hey, I've heard this conversation going on, and I'd like to jump in and hear your thoughts and tell you my thoughts. Set the scene and get the reader's attention. What scene are we setting? What does that mean? Taylor, do you have any idea what that means, to set the scene and get the reader's attention?
Like an intro, kind of.
A little bit. Again, that's telling people a little bit more about what's going on with the monuments, and maybe even talking to them about racism, or talking to them about the history of the Confederacy, or some of those things that you know for sure. You're not reaching for research at this point. None of this has research in it. But you're just kind of giving a little bit of background from what you know. And maybe this is a time for you to place yourself in the conversation and say, when I see these monuments, this is how I feel. And that's a great way to get the reader's attention, is to make a connection with your topic. Okay? Then you need to state your clear and direct response to the prompt, or state your thesis. Some of you are actually going so far to tell me the background and to sound introduction-y that you forget to tell me your answer to the question. We need that answer to the question real nice and clear. And some of you are saving it for the very end of the paragraph and then skipping these last 2 jobs. What are the last 2 jobs of, I'll make it bigger so y'all can read to me. What are the last 2 jobs of a thesis paragraph? Alan.
Review the examples you will use and get the reader ready for your first example.
Right. And a lot of you are doing a very quick preview. You're like, well, I'm going to tell you about it in 1 sentence. I'm going to challenge you to put in 1 sentence for each of the topics your authors raise, right? So if one person says getting rid of them would be erasing history, you say getting rid of them would be erasing history. If somebody else says they honor our Confederate soldiers, then you say another reason is they honor our Confederate soldiers. I want you to preview the ideas that are going to be in each body paragraph. I think this. One of my sources thinks this, another one thinks this, another one thinks this, another one thinks this. A lot of you have really short thesis paragraphs right now because you're not doing this job. I would like you to preview, just like the preview to a movie, preview what those ideas are going to be patiently, please, with at least 2 or 3 sentences. Some of you have squashed it into one, but it should be 4, really, your own idea and one for each of your sources at least. You've got 4 sources, so I could see this taking 5 sentences, one for you and one for each of your 4 sources. So I want to see this take a few sentences. I want this job in there. It's the place where you get the best development. And if it makes your paragraphs a little bit longer, that's good. That's actually a good thing. All right. And then get the reader ready for your first example. And your first example, your own thoughts. So you might just say something along the lines of, let me tell you what I think first. And then I'll tell you about what the research, then I'll tell you about the research that agrees with me. So again, speak naturally, speak from the heart, and say, let me get my ideas out first, and then I'll share the research with you. And just get us ready for that first body paragraph that's your own. Okay? We also have a review in this handout of topic sentences, right? And a lot of you in your source paragraphs are skipping your topic sentences and going straight to your source introductions. We've got a review here of topic sentences. Topic sentences are telling exactly what the paragraph will be about, connecting to the thesis, and using transitional words or phrases, okay? And I've highlighted those in blue and red here. So another special event. So the word another is my transitional word. And then connect to the thesis in the last essay was different because of COVID. In this essay, it would be removal of the monuments. And then tells exactly what this paragraph will be about. And this one was about her 8th birthday. And one of yours, it might be, this is the one that talks about Confederate soldiers. Or this is the one that talks about what Berlin did. Or this is the one that talks about Charlottesville, right? So you've got to do this. Now, some of you are starting out these paragraphs with, this article talks about blah, blah, blah. And I got to tell you, that it makes me laugh every time because I'm like, what article? You haven't told us about an article yet. So it would be like saying, hey, the cool thing I did yesterday. And we're like, we don't know what you did yesterday. Right? So you have to assume that your reader doesn't know what you're talking about until you've talked about it. So make sure that you're getting things in order and that you're working on these topic sentences. Some of you just skipped them for every source paragraph and dove straight into your source introductions. Happy to see the source introductions there. Still need that topic sentence. All right? All right, concluding paragraphs. Jacob, read me the first job of a concluding paragraph.
Summarize and assess how your examples work together.
Excellent. Nikayla, how many sentences do you think that might take in this essay?
About 3 or 4.
I agree, because you've got a lot of examples in this essay, so it's going to take a few sentences. I think that's really smart. Portia, can you read the second job of a concluding paragraph? You're muted, my love. Can you try again, unmuted?
Sorry.
You're good.
Okay, where do I begin? Oh, I can see.
Number 2.
Oh, okay. Explain how you have proved your point, what you have learned, and restate your thesis from a place of more confidence.
Beautiful. So, Monisha, when you're working here, what is that? Do you have any idea what that means about restate your thesis from a place of more confidence?
Basically explaining like why you chose it and why it's like your idea was.
Yeah, I like that idea. I like to think of it as the big I told you so. But it's a really great place to say, see how right I am, right? At the end of an argument, I like to kind of Jedi mind trick my audience and say, see, now you agree with me, don't you? You do. There's no choice but to agree with me because I'm so gloriously right. So we want to restate, but not restate it by copying and pasting it from the beginning. We want to say, now you can see how important it is to keep them or remove them, right? So it's that I told you so moment, okay? Now, this is a step a lot of you are skipping, and this is why a lot of y'all's conclusions are a little too short. So let's have Jonah read this to us, please. Jonah.
Explain what is at stake if someone does not learn from your experience. Explain how this taught you something.
All right, and so this is where you reflect. And if this is all brand new to you, you can reflect on what you learned from reading your sources. But for most of you, you had an opinion before you started all this, and your research is just backing it up. And in that case, it's time to assert what the consequences are if we don't do what you agree. If you say we should remove the memorials and we don't, what's at stake? You know, you feel like there's a reason. Make sure we understand what the consequences are of going ahead and leaving them up. Similarly, if you say they should stay up, what if we disagree with you and we take them all down? So what? And we've got to answer that so what question for our reader. We can't leave it up to them to decide so what. We've got to be the boss of their brains, right? And answer that big so what question. And this should take a couple of sentences for you to explain that big so what, right? And then, Lakeisha, what's our last job in a concluding paragraph?
Give your reader advice. Tell the reader what to do or think next.
Fantastic. And this is really important for an argument essay especially, because an argument on paper is all well and good, but you really want your arguments to translate into action. If you're making an argument, you want something to happen. And I'd like you to tell your reader what you'd like to have happen. Do you want them to join a protest? Do you want them to write to their city council? Do you want them to, I don't know, go start chipping away at the statues? I don't know what you want them to do, but it's important that you tell me as your reader what you want me to do. Maybe you want me to just have a conversation about it with people and raise awareness. Maybe you want me to just understand your point of view a little bit better. But I want you to end with talking to your reader about what they should do or think next. And a lot of people have reflected on what it means to themselves, but haven't thought about what it should mean to their readers. And I'd like you to do that. Bring it out from yourselves a little bit. In each of these, you have examples of the paragraphs in action, and your thesis paragraph should be no shorter than these samples. Okay? So go ahead and use these samples. Again, we're on a different topic, but we are using the same thing. Elijah, are you driving?
No, ma'am, I'm eating.
Okay, eating's fine and safe. I just don't want you to be unsafe. Okay, thank you, dear. All right, I hate to be all up in your business, but I really don't want you to be in an accident. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, fantastic. Are there questions about these or about thesis and concluding paragraphs? right, I'm going to remind you where these were. These were in week 4 under the read and use paragraph models. Okay? And we went over these. There are tutorials walking you through these if you need to listen to what I say about them with more patience, when you can pause and write things down. The handout is there to print and use as a sample. Remember, we are using things like this essay jobs checklist that has all the jobs of your different paragraphs. We are using the things we learned in week 6 and week 7 and week 8 and week 9 and week 10. So make sure you're using those things. Remember, in week 10, we have that list style outline of the argument essay that goes over how the essay should be organized. We have a handout on the research essay criteria. We have a handout on MLA format again, and we did our draft. So make sure you're engaging with these handouts as well. I believe I moved our, we have our handouts on the works cited list and how to use source paragraphs again, and then it's in earlier weeks as well. So as you're finishing your final draft and taking the feedback from your drafts, please make sure that you are using those handouts from previous work. This is all building to this. Okay, we use the same skills all the way through the class. You are putting your final draft in this assignment space where it says week 11 major assignment, argument essay with research final draft. Okay, I am going to add one thing to this week, and it is a quiz that is a screenshot of your criterion use. And that criterion use should show that you have used multiple submissions and have a minimum of grammar, mechanics, and usage errors. And whatever screenshot you want to choose to show me that, that's fine. That's not due until Sunday. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to put you in groups. I'm going to have you talk about your concerns about the essay or questions about the essay, and then come back and we'll share those concerns with the larger group. Okay? You can use the time to check on your feedback, but don't abandon your group. Talk to them about what the feedback is, but do take a minute at the beginning to see if you have any questions about your feedback and that sort of thing. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes so that you do have time within your group to check your feedback, make sure you understand it, and then talk about it with your group. Okay? All right. So I'm going to give some breakout rooms, and I'm going to put about 3 or 4 people in each breakout room. All right, make sure you're talking to each other. When you get into your breakout room, before you start checking your feedback, make a plan with each other and say, hey, I need to check my feedback, or I've already seen mine, let's get talking, and that sort of thing. If you have questions while you're in the group, the chat feature still works. You can chat with me while you're in your groups, okay? And I will chat back with you. Opening the rooms now.